So today we have someone who's looking to buy a new build in Lancaster, California. They did not tell me specifically if I can use their name, so we'll just call them Ron. Ron is looking to see if he can qualify for a home in Lancaster, California. I haven't heard of that city, but sure as heck has this fancy name. For about the price range of about $520,000. Now here's the situation. I'm not going to read the specifics and their life story because once again, it's all about the issues. It's like the core details, right? So by skipping everything, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Gross monthly income right now is $8,600 and their net monthly income is $6,250. Looks like their only debt is a car payment for $450. So basically they're telling me that their credit score is 729. For their savings, they put away $7,500 for an emergency fund. And then on top of that, they have $14K, just I guess for on top of that. Looks like they are an Army veteran. Thank you for your service. And they're looking to be using a VA loan, so they basically need zero down. In-laws are moving in with us and will help us out with about $2,000 a month, a very important factor. However, a lot of people have the situation where they have people like moving in with them and they're like, yeah, for sure, we're going to get X amount of dollars, but we just don't know if that's going to be consistent. You know what I mean? So it's good to plan for that, but I still think you should buy a situation without counting for that 2K and have that 2K just be extra money, but I don't know, maybe your situation is a lot more solid and it's a for sure thing. You never know with these things, right? So, and they did specify, I love that they did this, their why of why they're buying a house is because they want to buy a home for their 1-year-old son who can grow up in. We're in it for the long haul. So overall, here's the situation for Ron. We're not even going to look at the houses yet. Let's figure out what the situation looks like. So I can tell you that, I like that their debts are nice and low. Only a $450 car payment is pretty solid. Regarding the credit, I would say normally 729 is like low tier, maybe low mid tier conventional. So I would say that needs some work. However, because they're VA, I don't think it needs to be that high. I think, they're in the 600s as a minimum. I don't really do a lot of VA loans. So I normally, from the top of my head, what I can think of, the credit threshold isn't that high. So this is just okay, just fine for a VA. Now let's talk about the gross and net situation, because from these two numbers, we can figure out A, what Ron qualifies for, and B, what Ron can afford. So quite simply, we're going to just break down what they qualify for. And when they qualify, when the lender figures out what you qualify for, they will use, surprise, surprise, your gross income. I know, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to take half of that number. Essentially, well, with VA, let's figure out what that debt to income number is. So it looks like 41% is where they want to be for acceptable. So essentially, they want you to be at 41%. The max monthly payment that you're going to qualify for is 41% of your monthly gross income. Not what you take home, what you make. To figure out what they would qualify for, it's quite simple. Very just kind of follow along here. You can do this for yourself. So essentially, we know that 41% is the max allowable debt to income ratio for VA. So what we're going to do is we're going to get $8,600. We multiply that with 0.41. And then whatever that number is, we subtract it by the 450. So doing some quick math here, 41% of 8,600 is 3,526. We subtract that by 450, and that gives us 3,076 for what you qualify for. Now, for what you can afford, we're going to use your net income. Now, this is basically not necessarily what a lender will do. This is just using basic ideas of budgeting, which everyone has different ideas. But I like to use between 20 to 30%, since you do have some debt that I'm sure you want to work towards paying towards. I would probably put you around 25%. So what we do is we get 25% of your net income to figure out what you can afford as a monthly payment. So it's essentially, if you have a monthly payment that exceeds 25% of your net income, you would be considered house broke in this situation. This would be an excellent situation for you, because that leaves up 75% of your entire net income to pay off other debts, to live your life comfortably. So that number is 6,250, which is the net income. We multiply that by 0.25, so we get 25% of that number, and that gives us 1,562. So essentially almost half of what you would qualify for. Insane. It doesn't matter how many times I do it. It always surprises me. So already can tell this is looking a little more concerning. The number isn't quite where we need it to be. $1,500 is what you can afford. Now, what we could do in theory is, well, you're like, Javier, well, we're not adding the $2,000 there. You're right. If that $2,000 from the in-laws is reliable, then we can add it to the net income because it's tax-free, and that goes up to 32 with 50 cents with the in-laws. So yeah, it works, but you're praying that they never leave, because the second they leave, they're leaving you in a very tough spot. Could you afford it? No. You qualify for it, but you couldn't be able to afford it. So now that we know those numbers, let's go and look at the home buying scenario. So don't know too much about the area in question, but let's just kind of pull up on Zillow, see if we can find anything worth talking about. So in Lancaster, we're looking for something that's going to get us that monthly payment of $3,076 or basically $1,562, but we'll, I guess in this case, for the sake of the video, use the in-laws and say we can try to get at least 3,000 range. So let's just see what's there. Already off the bat, it's not looking solid. Why do I have 950? Probably because I was doing a previous video with that. So he said up to 520 is what he said, I believe. Yeah, there's a lot of options. They were saying new build though, so let me see if I can reduce it. Yes, I can. Sweet. So let's do 2022 and up. Great. There we have some options. 520, 540, 497. And I'm assuming those new builders, if they're like here in Phoenix, which basically all my deals right now are new builds because it's really the only thing that makes sense. They're like a lot of, giving a lot of incentives, like a low interest rate and all that stuff, right? So let's just assume that's the case. So for the calculator, I'm actually going to not use the Zillow one. I'm going to use the Loan Clarity Advisor calculator by my friend Kyle Seagraves, Win the House You Love. If you want it, it does cost a little bit of money, but there's a 20% discount in the link in the description. So I'm not sure if the lender's giving you like a low rate. I think last time I talked to a lender about a VA loan was a week ago, and they said they were going to get like a 5.2, but that was in Phoenix. So I'm not sure if that's the case. But let's do 5.21, 6% for the other, just to kind of see, you get a good idea. Well, obviously, in this case, the loan number one will save you money. Yeah, pretty obvious, right? Obviously, it's going to be have a lot more cheaper. So anyways, let's adjust some things like the monthly tax. I know taxes are not cheap in California. I mean, I'm assuming I'm going to go off with Zillow's telling me $500. Yikes. That's pretty accurate. Home insurance, about $180. And I'm assuming there's going to be an HOA. Maybe not as high as 100, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be an HOA. And let's put up to 520. Okay. So we can see here with the both interest rates, I mean, it doesn't look good. I'm not going to lie. One with the low interest rate of 5.2, which is what I'm hoping that they can get you down to, you're at a monthly payment of $3,700. And with this other option, if you're like closer to 6%, you're at a payment of $4,000. Now, once again, I know it's California, things are a lot more expensive, but it just doesn't seem to very much add up there. So to go back to the home buying scenario, we're looking at $520,000 new build. Don't really know anything else. It's the only option you gave me, so I'm assuming that's the only option you have with a low rate. Because once again, new builders are giving low rates. It's still like around $3,800 a month. If you get a mid rate, or it's like not super high, but like market rate at the moment, you're closer to $4,000. So it doesn't really add up to what your budget is. Like here, we're at 35. That's the thing about Cali. I know you guys are always pushing your budgets. Like every time I talk to someone who's buying in Cali, they're always pushing things and stretching things. And I can see how you could maybe talk to a lender and then they could like look at your situation with your in-laws giving money and they can maybe work. Okay. But here's the thing. I think it's way too tight. I know the price range is high because of the area you live in. But with that in-law money, you're basically giving them a lot of power. You're giving them too much power. If they ever want to leave, you're just going to have to beg them to stay because it's a very tight situation. I'm sure there is lenders that can maybe make this work somehow and squeeze this to actually get an approval on it, but it just seems too tight. Even if you lower the price a bit or adjust it, it's just too tight. But the problem with it is California likes to really make things tight. So you've probably already made up your mind if you're going to buy or not. You'd certainly have a very solid why. I don't know. Like I would do some more market research in your specific area. Is it like our prices dropping? Are things kind of deflating? I know California is not the greatest example of that. Every time I make a market video and I talk about how prices are adjusting, people are always like, oh, that's not true. my area is going up. Where do you live in California? Okay, well, that's the thing. You guys are always the exception. So if maybe your specific city is reducing in values and it's probably not the right time for you, you probably need to just wait for things to adjust and slow down. But it's just too tight. You're jumping in the water and the water is really high up here. And if your in-laws ever decide to leave you, you're going to be underwater. I would feel uncomfortable saying that it's an okay time for you to buy. I feel bad for your son because I know you want him to have a place for them to live and own and be there for the long haul. But if there's a potential for you to get something maybe in the 300s, maybe in the low 400s, maybe get that monthly payment to like the low 3,000 somehow, maybe go talk to the builder, and if they can give you like a 2% or 3% rate or talk that price down heavily, then maybe it might work. It's just the way right now, way it's being presented, it's a little too tight for me. So I'm gonna say it's a meh. Not your situation, just unfortunately the area around you. So if you're brave enough to send me your information, please know this. Contact me at contact@javiervidana.com. If you're looking to support the channel anyway, all the links are in the description. And more importantly, if you want to not only chat with me, but join our wonderful community with a lot of great people like yourself. We have home buyers, we have homeowners, we have people who are wanting the housing market to crash, we have people who want the housing market to crash to bloom, the bloomers, the doomers, whatever you are. We have an amazing community in their Discord server, so go ahead and check it out. Links in the description as well. We would love to have you part of the community, and if you want to send me a message, just go ahead and do that there. I'm very responsive there. So I'm looking forward to seeing the next one. And of course, if you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. Thank you guys. I don't know why I'm saying the peace like I'm just like this anime girl, but I'm gonna stick with it.